It's time for Game Night. A look at all of the high school football games set for this weekend across the central Susquehanna Valley.
Hello and welcome to Week 12 of our Game Night High School Football Podcast. I'm Daily Item Sports Editor Kurt Ritzman. I'm joined as always by football writer Todd Hummel. Second week of playoffs, Todd. What'd you see? In the
first week
opener?
The first week was pretty boring. There wasn't very many close games. I think Warrior Run Lewisburg was probably the closest game around here.
Troy Line Mountain ended up by 13.
13, yeah. So, yeah, not many close games. I did Midwest at Selinsgrove on Friday night. Maybe the highlight of that game was seeing a 99-yard touchdown run by Dean Hollenbach. Saw today that was the number one play on for Max Preps in Pennsylvania this week. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, Selinsgrove actually, really dominated up front and ran the ball real well against the Seals or against the Mustangs. Were able to build a big lead and cruise from there. And then I saw probably the best offensive performance I've ever seen. Southern Columbia scored on 8 of their first 9 plays in that game.
That's just crazy.
It is crazy, and it's one of those things where to do that. I think I said this to you. They have to really be trying. Julian Fleming was blocking downfield on some of those long touchdown runs. Gage and Gavin Garcia were blocking for each other on their long runs, and it was just probably just. In all honesty, it was unfair. It was unfair. The quarterback from Towanda, Tanner Kunkel, took some. You got to give credit. He was a real tough kid. I'm trying to think. I think he carried the ball 19 times. He dropped back to pass 10 times, and he returned at least 5 of those 8 kickoffs in the first half too. And just kind of, he took a lot of hits and didn't really ever. It was weird. He didn't really ever come off the field or was slow to get up in the one time that he wasn't really gang tackled in the second half by the second team defense. He was just kind of tripped up, and that's when he limped off the field for one play rather than he got gang tackled a bunch of times, the poor kid. But and again, I'm not a big fan of this 6 classes in football just for this reason. These large playoffs produces these games. Again, this is a rare Southern team, but a lot of these 1-8 games were not competitive at all. I really think that we need to think about either cutting back on the size of the playoffs, or I think that the 6 class thing is here to stay for a little bit unless it gets real bad.
One of the most interesting games you mentioned, Warrior Run beat Lewisburg 28-7, first home playoff game in Warrior Run history, and they got a nice victory.
Yeah, 61 years of Warrior Run football. I think I saw it was that it was their first home playoff game. And remember that they're going up to the top seed Montoursville, and they gave the Warriors a lot to handle the first time they played. I got to watch that game on television for a little bit, and the biggest thing for me that stuck out was the Warrior Run defense, and Ahmad Keys had the game of his life in that game. He was in the Lewisburg backfield probably 80% of the time, forced 2 fumbles. He played real well. And then Riley Dalbert was Riley Dalbert. He's getting, I think he's at 910 yards receiving for the season, so he's getting close to joining Julian Fleming as a 1,000-yard receiver this season. Set school record for career receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in that win. And it's interesting. If they hadn't played so tough the first time up in Montoursville, you'd think they maybe have a shot that Montoursville would take them lightly, but I think that's probably that might be a little issue for them when they go up there. But and it was just a great win. It sounds like the atmosphere was great at Warrior Run, and they were really into it. So congrats to them.
Then the other game I want to touch on, the winner gets a bye this week. The District 3 Class A final. Millersburg 56, Fairfield 28. It was 28-22 in the third quarter before the Indians were able to put them away, win a district title in their final year as a football program.
Yeah, that was pretty cool too. Their second District 3 title in school history. They won one back in the mid 2000s. Man, that right, like we've said all year, with the right matchup, that offense can be explosive.
Mm-hmm.
They were the first week of the season, and they had everything working on Friday night. Aiden Harmon had accounted for, what was it, 6 touchdowns?
I think so.
Threw for 4, ran for 2. Chase Crawford had over 100 yards rushing. Kyle Kashner had 3 touchdown catches and I think 180 yards receiving. There was a lot of math in that game because I think the Fairfield running back ended up with over 200 yards rushing too. So there wasn't a lot of defense in that game. And they get a week off, and it'll be they get the District 4 champion, either Muncie or Canton. I think it's a District 4 site next week, so that'll be, keep a lookout to see where that game ends up being at.
Okay, that's our lookout. First week of playoffs. We're going to take a quick break to hear from the sponsor of our podcast, GDK Development, and then we'll take a look at our Week 12 games.
GDK Development of Shamokin is a proud supporter of all local and youth sports. The Welsh family has been in business for 37 years and thanks you for supporting them and their local businesses, including Bruiser Sports Grill in Cole Township and the Elysburg and Sunbury Burger King restaurants. Again, thank you for 37 years of support and good luck area athletes and teams this sports season from the Welsh family and GDK Development of Shamokin.
Okay, jumping into this week, let's start with District 4 Class 4A title game. 7-4 Selinsgrove headed up to Jersey Shore, 8-3. They played in the regular season, and it did not go well for the Seals.
No, it did not. It was 36-0. And maybe the most telling thing was the 0 in that game because Selinsgrove, I think, was 1 or 2 first downs for the entire game. Just never got anything going offensively. And that was in a stretch of games where they had, Shore, Southern Columbia, and Berwick in like a month-long stretch. And, the offense has gotten much better since then. Defense has played much better since that game as well. And this is where the tough matchup is for Jersey Shore. Every time they play one of our teams this year, quarterback Tanner Lorson has been outstanding. And now, last week against Schick, they got their running game going for the first time all season. And that was at 400 yards on 60 carries. And the Seals have the same, I'm trying to think, it's like the 14th or 15th time in the last 8 years the Selinsgrove and Jersey Shore have played. 3 out of the last 4 years for the district title, and 3 out of the last 4 years for the district title. Again, this rests on how much can Selinsgrove. Selinsgrove's probably going to need 2 or 3 touchdowns to win this game, and so that means this defense is probably going to have to play as well as it has all season and do some things that other teams have not been able to do other than the Southern Columbias and the Montoursvilles of the world. I think the Bulldogs probably win this one, but I do think it's going to be much closer than 36-0. The Seals have kind of been pointing to this one.
Sure.
They don't get embarrassed often. In that 2-week stretch where it was 36-0 and 76-0 is kind of still sticks in the Seals' crawl. So, I think they play much better, but this Jersey Shore team has played so well this year, and, no shame in losing to those Montoursville or Southern teams this season, and they've played so well at the end of this stretch. What was it? And then scored 72 points last week against the Braves. So, so this Jersey Shore team is playing well, and I saw that Springfield Township team lost in District 1 last week, so they're going to have a 3-4 game in District 1. So the winner of that one, I think it's Upper Moreland, and I can't think before I made my point, I should remembered the other team, but that's who the Selinsgrove Jersey Shore winner gets, District 1 champion in the first round of states next week.
I will point out that Schick scored 25 points in that loss. Had a long touchdown run by Joel Durr. Zachy Nettles had a long kickoff return for a touchdown.
And who has the most in the area, but with 3 this season, by the way?
Is it Mr. Nettles?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, who has?
Who has?
Got it. I thought it was a trivia question.
It was not a trivia question. It was a comma, but...
So there are opportunities to break a big play, and, Selinsgrove showed their ability to do that with that 99-yard touchdown.
And Lewisburg kind of did that too when they played up here. Lewisburg had a hard time sustaining some drives, any kind of drives, but were able to hit some big passes against Jersey Shore secondary.
There's one other District 4 championship game Friday night. Doesn't involve a team we cover, but want to touch on it briefly. 7-4 Muncie headed to 9-2 Canton. And like you said, the winner of that will play Millersburg next week.
Yeah, and this Canton team has played real well all season. I cannot pronounce the quarterback's last name. Baille, I think it is. He's thrown for over 1,000 and run for 1,000 yards.
Wow.
They're pretty well balanced, and this Muncie team is real young. If you remember back to the first week of the season, Warrior Run shut them out to start the season, and they've really come on this year. I'm trying to think of, it's the Iyer brothers, or the quarterback and the wide receiver combo, and they've made they've thrown the ball pretty well this season. Canton with their seniors, and they've kind of been pointing to this season for the last couple of years. I think Canton gets this one, and it's probably down here. Depending on who wins this week, probably at Schick, or I guess it has to be on turf, probably at Shamokin or Danville maybe for a game with Millersburg.
Okay. Also Friday night we've got the Class 3A semifinals. We touched on the game with the most local interest, which is 7-4 Warrior Run headed to a really good Montoursville team that's 10-1 with their only loss coming to Southern.
Yeah, and the Warriors, I really thought, I don't think they were ripe for an upset last week, but I thought Shamokin would go up there and give them a little bit more of a game than they did. But I think this Montoursville team is pointing. I think they're the favorites for the title. Obviously, they have. Well, I don't think they've played Central. They haven't played Central, but they've beaten Warrior Run by 2 scores. They beat Loyalsock handily in a rivalry game at the beginning of the season. So I really think the Warriors are the favorite here, but. With the way the defenders have been playing offense and able to hit big plays on everybody, including them, I think this is the game Riley Dalbert had the kickoff return to get to cut it to 14-7 early in the third quarter. But so if Warrior Run's able to hit some big plays and play defense like they have the last half of the season, I think the Loyalsock game that they lost is the only team that scored more than a touchdown against them since they lost to Montoursville.
Well.
So, yeah, the defenders have been playing real well. Their defensive front has, if like I said earlier in the podcast, if you watch that game against Lewisburg, the Green Dragons struggled to block Ahmad Keys off the end, and the linebackers, I think it ended up being 33 carries for 33 yards for the Green Dragons rushing offense. So, yeah, if Warrior Run can keep up that defense, the way they play defense and hit some big plays, I think they'll be able to stay in this one. But I think I think Montoursville is just one of those teams this year that is looking to be in Hershey.
Sure. And the winner of that will get the winner of the other semifinal, Central Columbia, which beat Danville 21-0 last week, headed to Loyalsock, which beat Mifflinburg 38-0 last week.
And I was really wrong. Obviously, about Loyalsock and Mifflinburg last week. I thought Mifflinburg would go up there and had a real good shot of winning. The Lancers, since that first Mifflinburg game when they won 35-0, have played real well at the back end of this season, and Central has. I hate to use the word lucky, but they have gotten helped out. Lewisburg struggled in that game and couldn't put them away, and they were able to hit a touchdown to rally to get in overtime. And they have a big play offense too. They can hit some long passes. It seems like they've against Danville and against in that Lewisburg game in the second half, they've gone to a kid named Jacob Reifer as like a wildcat quarterback where they don't throw much out of it, but they're able to use his quickness as kind of a different look from Troy Johnson, and that has helped that offense as well. This is one of those games where it wouldn't surprise me if there was a bunch of touchdowns, and it also wouldn't surprise me if it ended up 7-0 one of these teams. It could go either way. I just think Loyalsock's playing a little bit better right now. I think we're getting a rematch of the Battle of the Bridge in the final of Montoursville and Loyalsock.
Saturday we've got a pair of games, Class 2A, Southern Columbia. I wrote 9-2, which is stupid because clearly they're 11-0. Coming off the 75-0 win over Towanda, they've got North Penn Mansfield coming to town. North Penn Mansfield's 5-6, upset Wellsboro last week. This was a game in the first round a few years ago where North Penn Mansfield came out, hit a couple big plays, and I think scored 18 first quarter points before Southern Columbia
think it was 63-18.
Turned it on, I guess I'll say.
Yeah, and they run a little bit of a spread, which is something Southern hasn't seen much of lately. I don't think it's going to matter a whole heck of a lot. This is the Panthers are probably a year or two away. This is a young team that graduated. At least 4 or 5 kids that started in the semifinal last year against Mount Carmel, where Mount Carmel handled them pretty easily. This Southern Columbia team is just at a different level. Southern probably rolls in this one pretty easily, and looking at hosting a final next week.
Okay, the other semifinal pits 9-2 Mount Carmel, coming off a forfeit win.
Yeah,
they're headed up to 10-1 Troy. Troy struggled with Line Mountain last week. It was 19-14 at one point before a late touchdown and 2-point conversion put the Eagles away to make it 27-14 Troy. So, I mean, as long as Mount Carmel gets off the long bus ride fine, I don't think this will be super competitive on Saturday night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the layout, the week off. I'm sure rest-wise and to make sure everybody's healthy, it was great. The Red Tornadoes have been playing so well at the end of the season. I'm not sure Coach Dara wanted to take that week off, though, without a game. It's going to be a matter if Troy can throw how well Troy can throw the ball. With they have a 2,000-yard rusher. The sophomore running back's top 2,000, and the other running back went over 1,000 last week in the Line Mountain game. So it's a big line. Their best lineman is going 1AA, I believe.
Wow.
He's been all state the last 2 years. I hesitate. It's such a long bus ride, and normally I would agree with you on the Northern Tier thing, but I undersold this Troy team a couple times before when they were entering this game 10-1 or undefeated, and thought the team down here would win. And this is a team, this is a coaching staff up there that runs a different kind of offense in this day and age, which is more of a straight option offense, which you don't see much of. I think Mount Carmel can stop the run well enough that I do think you're right that Mount Carmel wins this game, and I think it's probably 2 or 3 touchdowns. But it also would not surprise me if this is close at the half. If kind of like Wyoming area and Southern to start it. If this offense can kind of put together a long drive, keep that Mount Carmel defense and kind of want to play the ball control game, which honestly both teams want to do, and. I think both teams would be excited. They both got to run the ball 50 times on Saturday night. But I think the biggest difference, though, is, 4-year starter Tom Reisinger at quarterback. I think, the ability that Mount Carmel has to kind of spread the ball around and get the ball into different people doesn't allow people to concentrate on that run game maybe as much as it has in the past for the Red Tornadoes. And, I think Mount Carmel gets that one.
Mount Carmel had a bit of a tough time week 10 again in the coal bucket, but one thing that I was impressed with was Tommy running the ball. Also, they developed some nice, it seemed like, draws to really add another dimension to that offense as they head into the playoffs. It's
one of those things that they bust out once in a while. I think they don't want Tommy to take that many hits.
Sure,
but he has 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns this season. I mean, so it's honestly something they've done a lot more of this season, and I don't discount the coal bucket game on either side, but that game is so full of emotion and stuff sometimes that I don't discount how fired up Shamokin was for that game either to make that comeback.
All right, that's our look at our Week 12 playoff slate. Make sure to pick up the Daily Item Friday for our game night section with previews of all these games, Todd's column and picks. Friday night, follow along with me at dailyitem.com with our live scoreboard. We'll also have a live blog. Saturday, we'll have coverage of the 3A and 4A games. Sunday, we'll have the 2A semifinals. And then Monday, we'll have our high school football notebook with look at interesting tidbits. And unless something crazy happens, I guess we'd have Millersburg anyway. So we'll be back next week for Week 13. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
GDK Development of Shamokin is a proud supporter of all local and youth sports. The Welsh family has been in business for 37 years and thanks you for supporting them and their local businesses, including Bruiser Sports Grill in Cole Township and the Elysburg and Sunbury Burger King restaurants. Again, thank you for 37 years of support and good luck area athletes and teams this sports season from the Welsh family and GDK Development of Shamokin.